Part 3. Traditional Chinese Medicine, Infertility, Crazy Social Death Patients. Author, Cold Shower in Winter. Chapter 21. Is this the end of the anchor? Too soon. It's over, you see that kid is completely paralyzed and doesn't move. Acupuncture generally takes at least 20 minutes or half an hour. How can you pull out the needle in less than 5 minutes? The anchor is really harmful. The old man has been studying Chinese medicine for more than 20 years, and he is the best at acupuncture. It's a serious matter. No one in the live broadcast room called the police. It's not good to be in a hurry. The anchor is so sunny and handsome, I don't want him to go in and step on the sewing machine. Seconded, first screenshot of the anchor's prosperous beauty. Among these netizens, there are some self-learners who love traditional Chinese medicine, and after seeing baby acupuncture, they can't help but show a regretful expression. After all, in their cognition, acupuncture cannot be completed in such a short time. And of course they don't know that Baya has a god-level acupuncture technique, and through the dialectical stimulation method of multiple acupuncture points, it can greatly save time. At the same time, it achieves twice the result with half the effort. However, these white knights are not easy to explain to netizens in the live broadcast room. Once explained, it may not be finished for 3 days and 3 nights. At the same time, in order to avoid the cold scene of the live broadcast, he turned his head and chatted with the 3 girls, telling them to pay attention to eating less cold food. Obstetrics and Gynecology Hospital affiliated to Moda University. Lin Wanfan's office. In the office of Nyo University, except for the sound of Lin Wanfan lecturing, there was only the rustle of interns taking notes in their notebooks. Because the sound in the live broadcast room was turned off and muted, this did not prevent Lin Wanfan from explaining while watching Bayashi's needle. And the more you talk about it, the more passionate it becomes. Because the technique of Baya is very standard, especially the selection of acupuncture points is also very particular. In the first minute, Lin Wanfan felt that Baya was completely pricked according to the textbook. So she naturally felt that Baya would do the same next, so she paid more attention to the intern. She talks for a while and pauses for a while to give them time to digest and communicate with each other. Naturally, these interns are also taking notes carefully, and at the same time, they are also admiring Baya in their hearts. It's just that the senior brother just now kept frowning, and then looked at Baya's operation and couldn't help but cough twice. Lin Wanfan heard the sound and turned her head to see that it was one of her students, not smart, but her basic skills were okay, and she was estimated to be able to graduate with a doctorate. She subconsciously thought that the student had learned something from Baya's technique, and she was quite relieved in her heart. The intern he brought with him is finally about to show his talent. If you have anything to say, just say it. Lin Wanfan is in a very good mood. Yes, Mr. Lin. When the senior brother heard this, he was sure in his heart, and then the corners of his mouth hooked. This anchor performed well before, but he didn't find the right acupuncture points related to the kidneys. This is a big problem with him. Teacher, you didn't see it just now, the acupuncture points he used to get under the needle began to deviate seriously. And he also has a fatal problem, that is, he is not sophisticated enough, and he is in a hurry. Normal acupuncture, how can it start in 20 minutes, half an hour is the norm, and even it takes longer to meet special people, but looking at the operation of this anchor, it is estimated that it will be done in less than 10 minutes. It's a big taboo. In this case, the patient still has a look of enjoyment, and I suspect that this is a suspicion of fraud. As he spoke, the doctoral student even had a sense of justice and awe. I also want to stir up the emotions of all the interns. At the end, he also summed up. This also deceives laymen, and when I meet these professionals on my side, I will immediately be exposed. Mr. Lin, this white knight is obviously a liar, and he did not hesitate to invite actors for the huge bonus of the show. When many interns heard what he said, They were stunned at first, but when they saw that Mr. Lin didn't say anything, they slowly agreed. Makes sense. It's just that they didn't notice that after hearing the senior brother's words, Lin Wanfan's face became more and more ugly. She looked away from the live broadcast room of Baiye, because she had complete trust in Baiye, and just took a look at it again, and found that Baiye's stitching method was indeed different. At least it's different from the textbook, but it's not wrong at all, but it reflects the intelligence of the White Knight. Because the wavelength of that season is not only kidney deficiency, but also spleen and stomach deficiency. Therefore, the needle method naturally has to be flexible. This is a very simple dialectic, this doctoral student can't see it. Again, each patient's constitution and symptoms are different, and even if they have kidney deficiency, the acupuncture method can be different. What's all the fuss about? Besides, the speed of the technique, whoever prescribes it has to follow the rules of the treatment time. This is also determined according to the patient's condition. Just like the principle of yin and yang changing, it is always changing. This doctoral student is really stupid the more he learns. Come to think of this. Lin Wanfan's rare good mood was suddenly covered with dark clouds, and she couldn't help but scold. Shut up. As Lin Wanfan's voice sounded, suddenly, the entire office became silent, and the needle drop could be heard. Who taught you to jump to such conclusions? And what's going on with your high self-feeling, learning Chinese medicine well, especially prescription and acupuncture? The most taboo thing is to feel good about yourself. That's all the wisdom of the ancestors used themselves as tools to borrow the power of heaven and earth to treat patients. Why are you embarrassed to be such a utilitarian self-proclaimed professional? What's more, your opinion is not professional at all. Come, Lu Xiao, you come and tell everyone about the dialectics in Chinese medicine and acupuncture. Hearing such a rare harsh reprimand from Mr. Lin, everyone present didn't dare to talk nonsense. And every word she said was like a boulder, smashing into everyone's hearts. Mr. Lin doesn't need to lie to everyone, that is to say, the anchor does have two brushes, and there are more than two. All the flaws they mistakenly thought just now were caused by their own lack of skill. At this time, the senior brother's face was already blue and red for a while, and he was embarrassed and had nowhere to put it. But the White Knight's stitching is really getting weirder and weirder. Lu Xiao stood up, first praised Baiye's acupuncture and moxibustion skills, and then prepared to talk about the dialectics of Chinese medicine. But when she was about to speak, she was dumbfounded. Because she saw the bizarre scene, she couldn't help but mutter. Lin, Mr. Lin, why did the anchor puncture the solace of the patient's feet? And tied into a hedgehog? Ah, hearing this, Lin Wanfan's body trembled, and she turned to look at Baiye's live broadcast room with a suspicious expression. Then I saw Baiye pick up the needle and pierce it from the instep of G wavelength, and then penetrate the sole of the foot. Several stitches like this, making G wavelength's toes look like sea urchins, inexplicably mad. This strange scene stunned Lin Wan Maple Leaf. After looking at it for a while, her heavenly spirit cover seemed to have a beam of spiritual light striking straight down. It gave her a vague epiphany. But she couldn't tell the truth, she needed to consult her teacher. And she had to do it right away. Thinking of this, Lin Wanfan immediately took a screenshot, and then picked up the phone on the desk. Traditional Chinese medicine, infertility, crazy social death patients. Author, Cold Shower in Winter. Chapter 22. At this time. After hearing Lu Xiao's words, the other interns who were taking notes also looked up at the White Knight live broadcast room. Then they were all dumbfounded, and they felt a suffocation rush straight to the door. They had never seen any acupuncture solution that would prick the solace of a person's feet into a hedgehog. Although the acupuncture points on the solace of the feet are abundant, the anchor's jumping is too strong, and he was still tied to his back just now, and he ran to his feet in a trance. No matter how you look at it, it feels incredible. The dialectic of acupuncture doesn't seem to make sense, right? It seems, it's not so much acupuncture as a child's play. But the anchor's pricking just now is obviously very particular. Why is it suddenly so jumpy? Everyone was puzzled, and then a thought came to mind. Could it be that the anchor also learned a little bit of acupuncture, and he didn't get started at all, so he used the poor quarter wavelength as an experiment? But it doesn't seem right. If the acupuncture is wrong, the patient will be very uncomfortable. Why is G wavelength still sleeping comfortably? Wait. Everyone muttered in their hearts, and suddenly a terrible situation came to mind. That is, the quarter wavelength is already very uncomfortable, but because of so many needles, it is even more uncomfortable to move. It's very likely. Because they saw that Mr. Lin's reaction was also wrong, obviously Mr. Lin was also stunned, and picked up the phone on the table in a panic. At this time, when the senior brother saw Teacher Lin's expression, his face couldn't help but be happy, and the corner of his mouth sneered and hummed in a low voice. It's not good, the anchor is going to take people's lives. Our Teacher Lin is going to call the police. Otherwise, the anchor will make a big mistake. Mr. Lin said that he was saving the anchor. When everyone heard his words, they looked at Lin Wanfen holding the phone with an anxious look, and couldn't help but nod in their hearts. But none of them agreed. After all, they were scared of being slapped in the face. What if there was a reversal? Lu Xiao was silent, her eyes were glued to the live broadcast room. She felt that what the senior brother must have said was wrong. There was such a person in the live broadcast room. How could Bai Ye make such a low-level mistake? What's more, the needles he pierced on the solace of Ji Bakang's feet were very accurately pierced on the acupuncture points. And they didn't even notice that Ji Wavelength's face was visibly more rosy to the naked eye. Seeing this scene, that thought appeared in Lu Xiao's heart again. Could it be that this white knight is really the holy son of Chinese medicine? Next, it depends on what Mr. Lin evaluates. Not much. Lin Wanfen's phone rang a few times, and finally got through to Ni Guanghai. She immediately gave the interns a look and told them not to speak. Then turn the voice to the maximum and press the record button at the same time. Mr. Ni, have you watched the live broadcast of White Knight? Please take a look at it immediately. Ahem, Xiaolinzi. The other party's voice seemed to be a little disturbed. However, the interns present immediately heard that this was the voice of Ni Guanghai, a master of traditional Chinese medicine today. Master Ni's status is undoubted. He can be called a saint of traditional Chinese medicine, and his status in traditional Chinese medicine in the Dragon Kingdom can definitely be ranked in the forefront. They usually only listen to Master Ni's voice when they study online, and they never thought that they could hear Master Ni's voice at such a scene, and they can't help but be moved. They thought that Teacher Lin would call the police, but they didn't expect to call Master Ni directly. They were all a little stunned. And looking at Mr. Lin's excited look, it looks like he is about to slap the senior brother in the face again, but fortunately, he didn't follow the senior brother with the foresight. It turned out that Mr. Lin's anxiety just now was probably thinking about whether he could get through to Master Ni's phone. They all know that Mr. Lin's mentor is Master Ni, so Mr. Lin can't wait to call Master Ni at this time, thinking that it must be related to Bai Ye's acupuncture program. This seems to mean that Bai Ye's acupuncture level even surpasses that of Mr. Lin. SHHHHH. This is really a refreshing experience. Thinking of this, the intern's breathing quieted. Even the elder brother bowed his head in shame. Then I heard Ni Guanghai's sighing voice. I'm watching this little guy's live broadcast. It's really an amazing acupuncture method. Yes, it always feels familiar. Hearing Master Ni say this, Lin Wanfen became even more excited, and even her face was a little red. But students just can't remember which ancient book they have read it in, and this White Knight is really bold and innovative, and the students have a sense of epiphany. but the students are still a little vague. Please ask Mr. Ni to solve their doubts. Ahem, Xia. Hearing Lin Wanfen so excited, Ni Guanghai also felt the same way, and then sighed. I understand your feelings, but unfortunately, the ancestors' acupuncture is broad and profound, and I can't see the inheritance of this little guy. All in all, it's very subtle, and there is a kind of beauty in the mathematical permutations of the universe. It's like some kind of lost fairy needle. At this time, the best teacher is the patient's changing condition. Hear this. Lin Wanfen froze for a moment. She took a deep breath and calmed her heaving chest. Can't you think that even the respected teacher Ni can't see the stitching of the White Knight? Could it be that the ancestors of the White Knight were the Emperor's imperial doctors, and this acupuncture method is an imperial acupuncture method that has never been circulated among the people? She knew that this situation was possible. After all, Chinese medicine has a heritage, and there is also a difference between imperial Chinese medicine and folk Chinese medicine. After all, ancient Chinese medicine studied the universe of heaven and earth, and it was to serve the emperor at the beginning, and the common people only learned the details. If you look at it this way, wouldn't you have to find out that you can only ask Bai for advice? After all, it is impossible for everyone to understand the change of seasonal wavelength through the live broadcast room. And when those interns heard the conversation between Mr. Lin and Mr. Ni, their hearts suddenly set off a monstrous wave. The things of traditional Chinese medicine, if you don't know, you don't know, but there will also be some mystical understanding between famous teachers of traditional Chinese medicine, which can only be realized by heart. They never expected that Bai's acupuncture method would not only make Master Ni unable to see through, but also get such a high evaluation from Master Ni. At this time, the other side. Ni Guanghai turned on the speakerphone, and while talking to Lin Wanfen, he neatly found the ancient books of traditional Chinese medicine. He didn't know Bai's acupuncture, but he still had an impression of Bai's acupuncture ideas. He had seen it on an ancient Chinese medicine fragment, and he had never used it himself. As a master of traditional Chinese medicine, he will take time out to read ancient books of traditional Chinese medicine every day, and he will read them repeatedly. So I quickly found the ancient Chinese medicine fragment, and then finally found an acupuncture method similar to the White Knight acupuncture plan. Then his eyes widened. This kind of imperial acupuncture can change people's karma with the chi of heaven and earth. Karmic. Could it be that this little guy is using the flying crane divine needle? That patient has a sexual addiction, and in traditional culture, there is also a karmic factor, and the seeds of sexual immorality are buried in the consciousness of Alaya. But this guy is so young, can he borrow the breath of heaven and earth? Ni Guanghai showed an unbelievable look, staring closely at the change in the wavelength of the season in the live broadcast room. Just when he wanted to take a good look, he didn't expect that Baiya had already begun to pull out the needle. Buzz. Ni Guanghai suddenly felt that his brain exploded. This fragment recorded a different story. The time is too short. Such a high-level needle technique, but the time to apply the needle is so short. But looking at G wavelength's instantly improved complexion, Ni Guanghai knelt directly on the ground with a poof. It was as if he had drained all his strength, and he was hit by his soul. Could it really be the lost flying crane divine needle? If that's the case, then I'm not going to take in disciples, I'm going to apprentice. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Traditional Chinese medicine, infertility, crazy social death patients. Author, Cold Shower in Winter. Chapter 23. Since Ni Guanghailu's phone hadn't hung up yet, Lin Wanfen heard him muttering. Suddenly, I felt that my scalp was numb, and the Tianling cover was about to explode. What? The immortal needle method to change one's karma. This kind of vagueness has only been seen in the ancient witch doctor Zhu Yishu, but isn't that pure nonsense? It's not the most outrageous, she just heard. The teacher still wants to apprentice to the anchor White Knight? Holy! Mr. Ni, what is your identity, not to mention your status in the field of traditional Chinese medicine? You have treated tens of millions of patients with kidney deficiency and spleen deficiency, what kind of incurable diseases have you not seen? If it's more serious than that season's wavelength, you can be relieved by your transcendent medical skills. How can you be shocked by this kind of quotation just by watching the operation of Baya in the live broadcast room? If you go to apprentice to a fledgling little anchor, then how can other Chinese medicine bosses be embarrassed? Lin Wanfen felt that her throat was hoarse, and her brain twitched and she couldn't speak. After a long pause, he swallowed his saliva and asked. Teacher Ni, isn't there a little flaw in Baya's needlework? She knew that she was not qualified to ask this, but wanted to know how she viewed the stitches of the White Knight from the perspective of her teacher. It took a long time for the voice to fall. Ni Guanghai's excited and trembling voice rang on the other end of the phone. Xiao Linzi. There are some things I have to weigh before I can say them. But there is no doubt that this anchor is performing acupuncture on this patient, far more than me. Tell me from the heart, if it is confirmed by some aspects, and this set of acupuncture methods can be popularized, the merits of this anchor will shine in the land of China. No. Not just for China, but for the well-being of all mankind. Traditional Chinese medicine is the magic weapon for all mankind to spy on the universe of heaven and earth. All right, I'm busy, ha 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 ha, hang up. By the way, Xiaolinzi, I would like to thank you for recommending it, otherwise I would have missed witnessing such a wonderful stitch, ha ha ha. In the voiceover of the phone, hearing such crazy and affirmative words from her teacher, Lin Wanfen was stunned. If it weren't for the recording and playback of the phone, and the testimony of more than a dozen interns in the audience, she would have felt like she was dreaming. Boom. Immediately after, realizing the meaning of her teacher's words, Lin Wanfen's mind suddenly thundered. Then the whole body trembled with the second middle school. If the teacher's inference is correct, then his small recommendation can make the gears of the fate of all mankind start to turn. Lin Wanfen, who is middle-aged, thought of this, and couldn't help but stare closely at the White Knight live broadcast room. But, not really, this anchor is still so young. Maybe it's just a rare stitch left behind by the folks. Everything depends on the change of seasonal wavelength. The teacher is he confused? But the teacher has always been rigorous. Did he really see any clues? Could it be that Huaxia really has such a powerful needle technique? Wouldn't it really be G wavelength's trick to be an actor or a live broadcast AI to change his face? It's too magical but suspicious. Lin Wanfen's heart is beating inexplicably. It seems that the acupuncture of the White Knight is no longer an ordinary acupuncture in a small medical hall, but an acupuncture that may gamble on the fate of all mankind. However, whether all this is true or false depends on the final verification of the teacher and the reaction of the wavelength of that season. Of course, in the end, it must depend on the judgment of the teacher. At this time, the interns in the audience have long been silent, and they are not qualified to intervene at the master level of talk. They didn't even dare to move their crooked minds, they only felt that there was a muffled thunder in their chests, and Master Ni's explosive words made them feel that the world of Chinese medicine was about to change. At this time, regardless of whether the White Knight can cure the seasonal wavelength, it will no longer affect the status of the White Knight. The senior brother was even more speechless at this time, regretting that he wanted to find a piece of tofu and kill him. Lu Xiao's face was stunned, and his eyes flashed with a strange look. He could be affirmed by Master Ni. What is it that he is not the holy son of Chinese medicine? Magic City. Bai's Traditional Chinese Medicine Museum. After Bai pulled out the needle for G wavelength, he let him sleep for another 5 minutes. Then press his temple to wake him up. How do you feel? Bai performed God-level acupuncture for the first time, and he was also curious about the effect. In fact, in order to do acupuncture well, the cooperation of patients is very important. This season's wavelength may instinctively have fear, so he is not very cooperative when sticking needles. The stitching method that led to the White Knight only used 30% of the effort. However, Baye felt that the 3 successes were enough, and to deal with the small problem of kidney deficiency and spleen deficiency, he could prick it with his eyes closed, and it was a big deal to prick it again in a few days. At this time, G wavelength was still asleep, but he had already heard the words of the White Knight in his ears. This question gave him the awareness of the moment. He realized that he was sleeping, and he realized that he had just finished acupuncture. Then this sober consciousness suddenly asked 3 questions: who am I talking about, where am I, what am I going to do? The next moment, he suddenly bounced like a zombie, his eyes full of shock. He had never been so awake before. This scared netizens and his 3 girlfriends in the live broadcast room. Immediately afterwards, they found that G wavelength's face had changed. It was dull and dull before, but now it was a little bright. G wavelength ignored their surprise, but took a deep breath. Suddenly, the subtle flow of air, the blooming of wildflowers on the corner of the street, the sound of small insects crawling at the foot of the wall, everything around him presented a picture in his mind. Then, in just a split second, he had an epiphany about what it means to be in the moment. And what is the essence of sufficiency? This makes him extremely comfortable, which is more refreshing than traditional craftsmanship and opening a party with countless energy levels of enjoyment. He suddenly remembered how innocent he had been when he was a child, running happily in the sun. And I don't know when I started to have brain fog after coming into contact with those YY. Has been blinded, like a catheter broiler mechanically squeezing his own essence just to satisfy that moment of virtual happiness. But is he really happy? No, not at all. After every indulgence, he falls into emptiness and pain. All this ran through his youth. He thought everyone was like that. He thinks that people are animals, but it never occurred to me that there was another state. Thinking about it, suddenly, 2 lines of tears flowed out of the corners of his eyes, and then he cried loudly. Followed the sound of pop, and knelt down directly. Coach, I still want to play basketball. Woo wow wow. Hearing this, Baye was stunned. Oh no, could it be a piercing? What are you talking about? He is a Chinese medicine hall. But netizens in the live broadcast room exploded, and they saw a new quarter wavelength that seemed to have undergone head replacement surgery. Traditional Chinese medicine, infertility, crazy social death patients. Author, Cold Shower in Winter. Chapter 24. Damn. The anchor is really good at acupuncture. It's less than 5 minutes, it's much more powerful than the master of the big medical hall. The old man is also kidney deficient. When he breaks his intestines, it seems that he has been saved. I am fortunate to know the existence of the anchor in Xyler potion. It is really a blessing for 3 lives. Amitba, Laugulan does a good deed every day, and it is fate to be able to brush up on the live broadcast room of the anchor. I haven't met an opponent in the forest for more than 20 years, I can hit the big plane on the sky, and I can explode chrysanthemums on the ground, and I know the existence of the anchor today, and I can dominate for another 30 years. Alas, the heroes of the world are out of my generation, and they are urged by the years of entering the rivers and lakes. The widow Yang Dingtian only learned today that one supplement all the way is the best way in the world. Ilit? What kind of demons and monsters have exploded in the anchor's operation? If you continue to talk about it, the live broadcast room will be blocked. This way. Baye glanced at G wavelength, who was crying bitterly, and said lightly. Don't get excited, come and sit down, and I'll take your pulse again. And your Uncle Chen, can you calm down and let the little brother go to the kindergarten to stay, otherwise my live broadcast room will be closed. G wavelength heard Baye's words and nodded obediently. At the same time, he was very happy, he hadn't seen Uncle Chen for a long time. In order to see my dear Uncle Chen, I spent more than 100,000 yuan, and it turned out that I had a needle at Dr. Bai's place. This way. After Bai gave G wavelength a pulse on both hands, he was also pleasantly surprised. It is worthy of God-level acupuncture, and it really regulates the spleen and kidney deficiency of Ji Ba Kang. It has almost reached a state of refinement. Moreover, the God of G wavelength has returned. This God is divine consciousness, and the heart is hidden in God, and there is God at the moment when the Father's essence and the Mother's blood are combined. The spirit is guarded, and the illness is never safe. After the return of God, at least it means that the season's wavelength is aware. The external manifestation is that the eyes are bright, and the face is also radiant. This state, if he used moderation, could last for at least 2 months. And if he doesn't know moderation, he will return to his original form in half a month. Thinking of this, Bai said solemnly, "My Tai is equivalent to forcibly bringing you to the state of building a foundation in 100 days, don't be careless. Because the yellow poison in your brain hasn't been removed yet, even if you are awake now, you will definitely have spring dreams when you go back. So it's best not to break the ground for a week, and at the same time to keep the state in shape longer. You can do radio gymnastics every day in elementary school. Remember?" "Okay, Dr. Bai." Hearing Bai's words, G wavelength nodded again and again. He now feels that his awareness of focusing on the present moment is extremely fierce, and he can feel the beauty of many small things in the present moment. This feeling is like going back to when I was a child, very innocent and beautiful, and I am also very happy with tears. He even believed that he could already pick up a thick book and start reading it with a deep heart. This was something that couldn't be done before, not even with a gun in his head. And all of this is thanks to Dr. Bai. Dr. Bai is really a miracle doctor. He used to only know the pleasure of pursuing himself, but now he finally understands what the ID and superego are. He can observe his thoughts. It's a great feeling. He cherishes it very much. "Is there anything else I need to pay attention to?" G asked with tears in his eyes. "Eat well, focus on light, stay hungry properly, don't play with your phone when eating, and focus on chewing and swallowing." Bai thought that this kid's acquired spleen and stomach still needed to be improved, and reminded kindly. Traditional Chinese medicine focuses on mental concentration. If you focus on eating, the internal organs of the body will also inject more qi and blood into the corresponding organs. For the time being, you just have to remember this, and you will be of infinite use. Okay. When G wavelength heard this, he hurriedly took out his mobile phone respectfully, opened the memo, and recorded Bai's words intact. "Including acupuncture, the total cost is 400, and the QR code is here." Bai pointed to the QR code next to him. 400. It's only 400. G wavelength was stunned after hearing Bai say the price. The cost of his state, don't say 400,000, even if it is 4 million 40 million, he is willing to do it. "I didn't expect it to be only 400. G wavelength took a long breath and was about to scan the code to pay. He originally wanted to pay 400,000 yuan. But he found that he couldn't transfer so much, and he could only transfer 60,000 yuan at most, so he directly paid 60,000 yuan to Bai. "Dr. Bai doesn't need to make change, in my heart, your pen is worth millions." After speaking, G wavelength turned around and left with his 3 girlfriends. After returning home, he was ready to see the sea, climb the mountains, and appreciate the great rivers and mountains of the motherland. Bai watched G wavelength leave, and the corners of his mouth also hooked up a good-looking arc. He doesn't think he has a lot of money, and if he encounters more stupid patients like Ji Ba Kang in the future, maybe he can achieve his small goal sooner. Then look at the system panel. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the special task of the system. A complete set of advanced scientific examination equipment for infertility is on the way. Traditional Chinese medicine, infertility, crazy social death patients. Author, Cold Shower in Winter. Chapter 25. Baya didn't expect the system's rewards to come so quickly. Before he could rest for a moment, I received a phone call saying that the logistics had arrived. After 5 minutes, several logistics trucks brought in a full load of instruments. The whole alley was blocked for a while. Fortunately, these logistics guys are very responsible, helping to carry and guiding the installation. This made Baya a little embarrassed. Looking at their professional appearance, it really felt like they were NPCs sent by the system. Fortunately, the area in his Chinese medicine hall is spacious enough, and it didn't take long for everything to be done. Baya specially checked it, and it was really an advanced scientific and technological instrument. In addition to ordinary imaging, ultrasound, immune, mucus examination equipment, etc., there are also instruments to check DNA sequences, which is really complete. However, in order to use these instruments, one must also be proficient in Western medicine and computers. White Knight is now an entry-level operator at best. Of course. As a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner, he doesn't like these cold machines that are harmful to the human body, and he will not use them unless he has to. But it does need to hire a female assistant. If a woman comes to the consultation, it will be a good checkup. Imperial Capital Medical University. Ni Guanghai looked at the change in the wavelength of the season in the live broadcast room of the White Knight, and was speechless in surprise. It's like a different person. He asked himself if he couldn't do it. There is an unwritten rule in Chinese medicine that a person can learn from multiple masters, and no one cares about age. Ni Guanghai has already come up with the idea of worshipping Baya as a teacher. This thought lingered for a long time, and I didn't even notice that someone knocked on the door of the office and came in. The person who knocked on the door and came in was Li Dakang, secretary of the Imperial Capital Municipal Party Committee, who was both Ni Guanghai's superior and Ni Guanghai's disciple of traditional Chinese medicine. This time, I came to Ni Guanghai to discuss the topic of infertility. As secretary of the Municipal Party Committee, he naturally has to pay attention to GDP, and now the city's achievements in all aspects of economic construction are outstanding. However, GDP has not gone up, and a comprehensive analysis shows that the key factor of population imbalance is particularly prominent, and there are too few newborns. In addition to force majeure factors, a further investigation found that there are too many infertility phenomena among young people. There are naturally many reasons for infertility, and he didn't have to care about it so carefully. It's just that he happened to have studied Chinese medicine under his teacher, and he will be promoted to the central government in terms of personnel, so he wants to use the method of promoting Chinese medicine to solve some of the infertility problems. It can be regarded as a well-being for future generations. Ni Lao. Ni Lao. What are you looking at, so stunned? Li Dakang stood behind Ni Guanghai and greeted softly. However, after a while, Li Dakang found that he still didn't react at all, just staring at the live broadcast on his phone in a daze. This can confuse Li Dakang. He knows that Ni Lao doesn't like to swipe his mobile phone for live broadcasts the most. What's going on so trendy today? What kind of live broadcast did you watch? Traditional Chinese medicine specializes in infertility? Oh no. I see. It's just that a young man in the picture directs the logistics brother to move things. What's so nice about this? Li Dakang was stunned, and couldn't help but gently pat Ni Guanghai's shoulder. Old Ni, why are you so energetic? Ni Guanghai's body trembled and turned around. It turned out to be Secretary Dakang. Elder Ni, now is not the workplace, just call me Little Laozi. Li Dakang looked at Ni Guanghai with a shocked look on his face, and couldn't help but ask curiously. Old Ni, What's wrong? Let you see the smile, little Litzy. It's like this. Ni Guanghai saw Li Dakang's doubts and said the operation of the White Knight. Hearing the narration, Li Dakang's eyes moved, and then he was silent for a while before he spoke leisurely. Something is wrong, old Ni. Traditional Chinese medicine is inherited by a teacher, and it is very strange that he can perform immortal acupuncture techniques that you have never seen before. Secondly, this anchor is too young, he has a stunt, how can he only specialize in infertility? This is unreasonable. When things go wrong, there must be demons. So, Elder Ni, I oppose your decision to go to apprenticeship. The voice fell. Ni Guanghai couldn't help but put his hands on his hips, and his tone sank. How, little Litzy, are you suspicious of my vision? No, no, Li Dakang saw that Ni Lao was about to get angry, so he hurriedly waved his hand and spoke. Let's just say, is there a possibility that the patient who came to the anchor is an actor? Don't refute it yet. Even if he is not an actor, we can't rule out another possibility, that is, the anchor uses AI face swapping technology. At present, AI face swapping technology is widely used in the field of live broadcasting, and it is difficult to distinguish between the real and the fake. Our city's public security department has received too many cases of such fraud. Looking at Li Dakang's serious expression, Ni Guanghai gradually calmed down. He paced back and forth in the office, then looked into Li Dakang's eyes and said, Little Litzy, I know what you mean. But let me tell you clearly, it's not easy. To use an old saying, if the eye is like a meteor, this person must be a talent of Anbang. But I'll listen to you first, and I'll observe more. By the way, what are you looking for me? Just understand. Li Dakang breathed a sigh of relief when he heard Ni Lao's words. If a dignified professor from Imperial Capital Medical University went to a small Chinese medicine hall as an apprentice, it would be a mess. I'm looking for you, it's the people below who have come up with an idea and want to discuss it with you. It's just, gather the country's outstanding Chinese medicine practitioners and hold a ranking competition for Chinese medicine to solve infertility and infertility diseases. Look. This, Ni Guanghai listened a little absent-mindedly and said vaguely. As long as I can promote Chinese medicine, I will support it. Li Dakang saw Ni Lao's state, and knew that it was not suitable to talk about the idea of holding a Chinese medicine competition today. Then something suddenly occurred to him, and he spoke. My daughter Jia is studying politics and law, but she has been interested in medicine since she was a child, and she has also passed the Western Medicine Certificate and the Chinese Medicine Certificate. Don't look at Jia's junior year, but the Chinese medicine literacy is no worse than mine, you say you know. I heard her say that this summer vacation, she also wants to find a folk old Chinese medicine hall to work and study. It just so happened that she was studying in the magic capital again. I can recommend her to go to the Bai Chinese Medicine Pavilion to explore the reality of the anchor. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Traditional Chinese medicine, infertility, crazy social death patients. Author, Cold Shower in Winter. Chapter 26. Magic City. Compound Egg University. Female dormitory building of the Department of Political Science and Law. Li Jia is brushing the school scarf. Sisters, there are perverts in our school. Many girls have lost their stockings and underwear that are drying on the balcony of the dormitory. Yes, that's damn. What about my new stockings? I'll tell you something even stranger. My washed stockings were lost on the balcony, but 3 days later they reappeared and were washed again, and they smelled even better. It's good that you lost your stockings. Our panties keep disappearing and appearing in the same place for no apparent reason. What the hell? Isn't there any surveillance in our dormitory building here? Is this weird or perverted? Li Jia ate the melon around her neck, and couldn't help but show an unbelievable look. Stealing girls' underwear, this is a typical fetish. At present, it appears that the range of missing clothing is concentrated on the balconies on the first and second floors of the girls' dormitory. As the school flower of the Department of Political Science and Law, Li Jiajia is very sure to catch this pervert and then transfer it to the judicial organs. However, to her surprise, she found that the pervert also had a special fetish. Is to steal the girl's underwear, and will wash it seriously again and then secretly return it to the original owner. This is from a judicial point of view. Just as she was thinking, her father's phone suddenly called, and her father was Li Dakang. "Hey, Daddy. AHH. I've already found the most famous old Chinese medicine hall in the magic capital. Why should I go to the Bai Chinese Medicine Museum that I have never heard of?" "What, Master Ni is very optimistic, your own daughter is also cheating." "Okay, let's say it, I'll take a look. Anyway, I've already arranged what I'm doing during the summer vacation. It's impossible to stay in the Bai family Chinese medicine hall." After hanging up the incoming call, Li Jiajia continued to brush her neck, and then swore a reply. "Don't worry, sisters, Li Jiajia, will definitely help you catch that pervert." Unexpectedly, as soon as she replied, she immediately exploded a large number of messages. "Colonel Li, it's useless to rely on personal strength. We squatted for 3 days and 3 nights and didn't find the perversion. I squatted every night for a week, but the perverted thief didn't show up. That thief is very good at guerrilla warfare. Colonel Li, I guess I have to let your father out." Li Jiajia didn't expect it to be so difficult to catch a pervert. It seems that she underestimated herself. "Forget it, you can't rush it. Let's take a look at the Bai Chinese Medicine Pavilion introduced by my father. Come to think of this." Li Jiajia opened her laptop and searched the Motu Bai's Traditional Chinese Medicine Museum on the internet. As a result, I found so many entries, all of which were registration information and a few scribbled pictures. Bai's Chinese Medicine Museum, specializing in infertility. It's outrageous. Traditional Chinese medicine is broad and profound, and it actually specializes in infertility, which is really a small medical hall. It's still in a small alley in the Chinese medicine hall. It's really strange, and it's not famous. How did you get noticed by your father? Forget it, let's go check it out. Li Jiajia rarely plays short video live broadcasts, so she hasn't paid attention to Bai Ye yet, and she doesn't know Bai Ye's level of traditional Chinese medicine. She is the daughter of the secretary of the Imperial Capital Municipal Party Committee, and it is not surprising that she will enter the judicial organ in the future. But she has been in love with medicine since junior high school, especially Chinese medicine. This chance is because of her breasts. The name of the profession is macro, breast, disease, and from elementary school to junior high school, he has completed the transformation from Mercedes-Benz C to Mercedes-Benz G. This makes the girl envious, makes her very distressed, and always feels a sense of swelling. Coupled with her love of sports, it's even more annoying. She wanted her breasts to be smaller, so she consulted many doctors, and Western medicine said that surgery was necessary, while Chinese medicine could not do it. So in order to explore the mysteries of the body, she began to study Chinese medicine on her own in junior high school, and now in college, she has obtained some Western medicine certificates and Chinese medicine certificates. In the process of studying, I gradually felt the breadth and profundity of medicine, especially Chinese medicine. So I plan to go to the largest folk old Chinese medicine hall in the magic capital as an apprentice this summer. Unexpectedly, her father recommended a little-known small Chinese medicine hall to her, and it only treats infertility. It is also said that it is highly appreciated by Mr. Ni Guanghai, a master in the field of traditional Chinese medicine. Of course Li Jiajia didn't believe it, but it was not good to disobey her father's intentions, and she planned to take a look with curiosity. By the way, The two pet cats raised by the dormitory sisters also seem to be infertile. Take two cats to test the master's level, hee hee. Oh, by the way, those two cats are still in the pet store, and I want to call the pet store a pet shop outside the entrance of Fudan University. The owner's private office. A young man in his 20s was looking at the picture on the computer with red eyes, frantically making dumplings with his hands. The one playing on the computer is the cherry blossom country teacher of virtue and art. And it's the type of stockings he loves. And he also had stockings wrapped around his hands. These are his carefully selected stockings, with a certain original flavor, and that taste comes from the campus. Not much. After a shudder, he entered the sage mode, and then couldn't help but enter the state of thought. He is tall and handsome, and he is also an alumnus of Fudan University, majoring in biology, and opened a pet shop near the school after graduation. Within a few years, he made a lot of money, and he recruited a lot of employees to work for him. So I had time to make a lot of friends with students from Fudan University. I often have sex with them. And then he also has a bad taste for sticking a hole in a bar balloon before each party. In this way, the tadpoles can flow freely. But strangely, he thinks he is in good health, but after more than a year of such operations, he has not heard of any of the schoolgirls he has made friends with who have a big belly. It's very strange. Could it be that he has a problem, infertility? He hadn't checked it yet. After all, it wasn't time to talk about marriage. Are you going to check it out? Just thinking about it? Suddenly, a call from a schoolgirl came. Traditional Chinese medicine, infertility, crazy social death patients. Author, Cold Shower in Winter. Chapter 27. Boss Gao, I'll come over to pick up the cat at night. Gao Jiang, the owner of the pet shop, his eyes lit up after receiving the call. He was so impressed by the schoolgirl. 1.7 meters tall and well proportioned, and his appearance is even more top-notch, which can be called the most beautiful school flower in the past. He's been wanting to soak for a long time. It's just that I didn't have time to entangle with other schoolgirls before, so I won't have a chance this time. So he hurriedly said attentively. Jia, just leave this kind of errand work to me. Where is the Chinese medicine hall you mentioned? I haven't heard of it yet, so let's send a location. I'll send it when I arrive. It's okay, the address. Li Jia looked at the information on the internet and said, it's a very remote place. I'll send you the location when I arrive. Okay, I'll wait for you to let me know. Gao Qiang hung up the phone, thinking of the schoolgirl Li Jia's long-legged appearance in stockings. He couldn't help but lick his lips. Then he began to clean up the mess on the table, and he would carefully wash it, dry it, and then return it to its original owner. In order to complete this difficult process, he has watched Conan and various criminal investigation dramas n times, and he is confident that he can escape all the eyes. Of course, it doesn't matter if you get caught, you may not have the face to stay in the magic capital. But it's the same if he changes cities and develops his hobbies. Anyway, not many people know. And he didn't know that it was because of his habit that it led to the spermatic cord. After Li Jia hung up the phone, she was in a good mood. She knew that Boss Gao was helpful and a handsome senior with a good reputation. Then I thought of something. Li Jia called her best friend Lu Xiao and asked her to go for a walk after work in the evening. Lu Xiao readily agreed, and wanted to talk to Li Jia about the genius Chinese medicine he saw in the live broadcast room today. The time came to 7 o'clock in the evening. The summer evening is red, and the breeze blows on the campus, which has a more charming taste. The two school flowers strolled on the campus, instantly attracting the side eyes of countless young talents. They are Li Jia and Lu Xiao. One has a hot, pure, and gorgeous body, and the other is gentle and dignified. Both of them are fanatics of traditional Chinese medicine, and their maintenance is more professional than that of celebrities, and their smiles and smiles are full of all kinds of style. Xiao, accompany me to a small alley later. Jia, don't you want to go to a small medical hall to fight fakes, right? As soon as Lu Xiao heard this, he guessed what his girlfriend wanted to do. Your father is the secretary of the Imperial Capital Municipal Party Committee, and he will be promoted to the team of the Forbidden City soon. You are not afraid of offending people, but I have to be careful everywhere in my internship. It's good that I like to fight counterfeiting. After all, I aspire to become a prosecutor, but this time I'm just going to find out the truth. Li Jia took Lu Xiao's hand and said with a wicked smile. Actually, I also made an appointment with a handsome guy for you. Don't you have a good impression of the high-level senior in the pet store? I asked him to come too. What are you talking about? I've long been indifferent to that big carrot. Lu Xiao whispered, and then turned red. She immediately thought of the White Knight in the live broadcast room. Although she was only in the live broadcast room on her mobile phone and had never met, she felt that she had already liked White Knight. The girls are all Mujiang, especially in their own professional fields, not to mention that Bai Ye is so much more handsome than Gao Qiang. This is the simple admiration of the little girl, and the emotion comes like the surging yellow river, and it comes suddenly. How to sing that song? Love comes too fast, like a tornado. You can't leave the storm circle, and you can't escape. I can't think anymore. I can't think anymore. I can't resist the charm of the White Knight. Lu Xiao was also shy about this emotion, as if he was too rash. Did not immediately share today's experience with Li Jia. Haha, blushing, I remember when we were a freshman, Gao Qiang was the president of the student union, and the whole person was shining, and you were so fascinated by his talent that you didn't want it. Li Jia said with a smile, and soon took Lu Xiao to the alley where the White Knight Chinese Medicine Hall was located. Jia, that's all in the past. Wait, it's across the street from my internship unit. Lu Xiao's eyes widened, seeing that the traditional Chinese medicine pavilion was in front of him, and couldn't help but hold his breath. I didn't expect my girlfriend to come to the White Knight by myself. Could it be that Jia also swiped Bai Ye's live broadcast room, and thought Bai Ye was a liar? That was really a big flood that washed the Dragon King Temple, and the level of Bai Ye has been recognized by Master Ni of traditional Chinese medicine. It's really hard to find this place, let's go in and have a look. Li Jia glanced at Lu Xiao, and then wondered. Xiao, what's wrong with you? Why is your face so red? No, I ate too much spicy food just now, and I choked on it. Lu Xiao bumped into the deer in his heart, and suddenly felt a sense of nervousness about meeting idol stars. Traditional Chinese medicine, infertility, crazy social death patients. Author, Cold Shower in Winter. Chapter 28. Li Jia took Lu Xiao's hand and walked into the Chinese medicine hall in the White Knight. Soon I saw Bai Ye sitting at the consultation table. I thought it would be a bad old man, but I didn't expect it to be a handsome guy with clear eyebrows. There is also a kind of temperament of a stranger is like a jade sun, and there is no match in the world, which is rare. But just like that, as the second generation of officials, she has seen too many handsome guys. Holding Lu Xiao's somewhat hot hand, Li Jia stepped in, looked at Bai Ye and asked directly. Where's the doctor? I am. Bai Ye looked up, his trademark smile on his face. You? No kidding. Hearing Bai Ye's words, Li Jia's tone was flat, even a little indifferent. Looks about our age. I'm not married yet, how can I cure infertility? Do you have any experience? Li Jia said, ignoring Bai Ye, but looked left and right. She found that behind the curtain in the middle of the small medical hall were rows of advanced testing equipment. After seeing this, I couldn't help but sneer in my heart. Interesting, a bunch of modern testing equipment is on display, and there is also a sign of traditional Chinese medicine to treat infertility. Isn't it just selling dog meat on the head of a sheep? It seems that the level of TCM consultation is not good, and it will only be detected with equipment. It's just that these devices are separated by a curtain. But the key is that he is a male doctor, so how can the privacy of female patients be guaranteed? Li Jiajia stared at Bai Ye, looking at him as a matter of course, and couldn't help but have a thought in her heart. Wait a minute, could it be that he has some kind of special fetish? For example, voyeurism, such as stealing girls' underwear, such as loving to watch that kind of film. Creek, perverted. The environment of this kind of small folk Chinese medicine hall is really terrible. How can anyone come to see a doctor? Dad really introduced me to this place. What a push of your own daughter into the fire pit. Thinking of this, Li Jiajia couldn't help but feel a little irritable in her heart. The look on his face when he looked at Bai Ye was also more disdainful. I really wanted to pull Lu Xiao away, but I promised Gao Qiang to let him bring the cat, so I had to wait. But she didn't expect that at this time, Lu Xiao was looking at her with an embarrassed face, as if she wanted to explain something. Xiao, what's wrong with you? Li Jiajia couldn't help but ask when she saw this. No. It's nothing. Hearing the question, Lu Xiao blushed and lowered her head. She had been secretly watching Bai Ye just now, and once her eyes met, she would always blush and avoid it. And the embarrassment she just showed was precisely because of what her best friend said, which made her feel uncomfortable. After all, the current Bai Ye is the holy son of Chinese medicine in her mind. My best friend didn't know Dr. Bai's medical skills, but she saw it with her own eyes. Not to mention that it has also been recognized by Mr. Lin and Mr. Ni. Thinking of this, Lu Xiao sighed in her heart. She wanted to tell her best friend about it, but she was embarrassed to say it in front of Dr. Bai. After all, as soon as you open your mouth, isn't it tantamount to revealing that you have been paying attention to others? What if someone misunderstands you? But without saying anything, Lu Xiao felt uncomfortable again. With this in mind, she looked at Bai Ye again. It's okay. Dr. Bai was not moved by Jiajia's provocation, and his face was still calm. It made her feel better, and then she couldn't help but mutter. It's no wonder that Jiajia questioned that Dr. Bai is so talented. Who would have thought that the restaurant would be opened in such a remote place? Now there are fewer young people who have children, fewer patients who see infertility, and they are basically running to big hospitals, and it is estimated that no one will come to see a doctor tonight. Alas, Jiajia didn't have a chance to see Dr. Bai's medical skills. What a pity. The two schools have their own thoughts on their minds. So, at this time, neither of them noticed a familiar figure in front of the store. It was Lin Wanfen. In the afternoon, Lin Wanfen took screenshots of the pictures of the white knight pricking G wavelength. Then I pondered and watched it again and again. The more I watched, the more frightened I became, and the more I watched, the more I admired Bai Ye's superb acupuncture and moxibustion skills. With just a few needle prick ideas, Lin Wanfen felt a majestic and vast knowledge of Chinese medicine surging towards her like a mountain of seas. Her thoughts and cognition suddenly opened up, and she suddenly became enlightened. At that moment, she felt that she had been like a frog at the bottom of a well for 20 or 30 years, until she saw the acupuncture of the white knight, and she saw the vastness of the sky of real Chinese medicine. Lin Wanfen was so moved that she was about to cry, and finally understood why her teacher praised Bai Ye so highly. And she came to Bai Ye now precisely because she wanted to ask Bai Ye face to face with a few small questions. No matter how much she thought about it, she couldn't understand why Bai Ye had to prick a few stitches like that. It's a bit abrupt, but she can't wait. She came with an extremely pious heart, and she had a kind of determination to die at the end of the day. Even thought that if Bai Ye could solve her doubts, she would rather kneel down and call the master. Meanwhile, Bai Ye looked at the two best beauties coming to the shop, and was also a little moved. These two beauties are in line with the aesthetics of traditional Chinese medicine and modern aesthetics. Even if they are placed in the entertainment industry, they are 1 in 100. Let his small Chinese medicine hall have a feeling of being splendid. It's just that they didn't seem to be coming to see a doctor, which made Baya a little overwhelmed. To put it bluntly, he has just crossed over to this parallel world, and he is not familiar with the outside world. And at this time, the live broadcast room. The anchor is blessed. What an eye-catching beauty. Isn't this the school flower of our Fudan University? This is Li Jiajia, her father is the secretary of the Imperial Capital Municipal Party Committee. I know, Li Jiajia said that my senior sister likes to do Chinese medicine to fight fakes the most. Oh no, the anchor is really going to be faked. No, I just became a fan of the anchor. Is the anchor going to be slammed? It's not a joke at all. I don't know how the anchor died because of my father's words. But, so to speak, that Kunpa Chang just now is really an actor. The anchor is so good looking, he looks like an actor. I said, Chinese medicine can't be so young. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Traditional Chinese medicine, infertility, crazy social death patients. Author, Cold Shower in Winter. Chapter 29. Li Jiajia was bored and complained on the topic of school scarf. The doctor in this Bai's Chinese medicine hall is a bit perverted, and he feels that he will do some dirty things. It was supposed to be just a random complaint. But it was seen by a special girl, and then immediately made a phone call to go out. This girl's name is Suri, a princess of a small African country, who came to the Dragon Kingdom as an exchange student to study at Fudan University. It was a pleasant trip, but unfortunately, her panties were frequently stolen. This made her feel very insecure, and when she thought of the contradictions between her country and her neighboring countries, she subconsciously felt that there would be a killer to assassinate her. So she immediately notified the consul of her country, and then reported the matter layer by layer. The Ministry of Public Security of Longguo attached great importance to it, immediately set up a special case team, and ordered the task force to solve the case within 2 days. The task force suffered from too few clues, and the place where the incident occurred was not monitored, so there was no progress. However, Professor Liang of the task force speculated that this was not a killer crime, but a simple theft case. It's just that this case was filed by the upper-level Ministry of Public Security. Even if it is to bombard mosquitoes with cannons, no matter how simple the case is, in order to appease the princess of a small African country, the case must be solved. Now 2 days are coming to an end. Under pressure to handle the case, Professor Leung encouraged the students to provide various clues. Therefore, Suri's call was made to the task force. Professor Liang of the task force attached great importance to it and immediately paid attention to the Chinese medicine hall in Bei. Sumei, the hacker master of the task force, also obtained the information of Baya at the first time. Professor Liang, aren't you also an old Chinese medicine doctor? What do you think of this white knight? He is participating in the live broadcast of The Champion. Now tens of thousands of netizens are paying attention. According to your speculation about the portrait of the thief, it seems that he is not in a position to return the stolen goods to Zhao. Well, it is not excluded that he has accomplices. Professor Liang pondered. Now we don't have any clues, and the time given above is tight, so don't give up any suspicions. Our task force is dealing with all kinds of perverted cases, and everyone should be here on vacation. Sumei quipped. Professor Liang did not answer, but opened the live broadcast room of the White Knight. He is not only the leader of the task force, but also a folk master of traditional Chinese medicine, because he was born in a family of traditional Chinese medicine, and his ancestors also served as the emperor's imperial doctor. Bai's Traditional Chinese Medicine Museum. Li Jiajia finished complaining on the scarf, and suddenly found a familiar figure behind her. Mr. Lin. Jiajia and Xiao are also here. Lin Wanfan saw Li Jiajia, and a trace of surprise flashed in her eyes. The daughter of the secretary of the Imperial Capital Municipal Party Committee also has a fate with her. As a famous doctor of traditional Chinese medicine, she often participates in academic forums and exchanges related to traditional Chinese medicine, and met Li Jiajia during that period. At that time, Li Jiajia still wanted to learn from her, but she refused because of her work. Teacher Lin, are you here for Xiao? Li Jiajia was also surprised. She didn't expect to meet her idol teacher Lin in this small alley. She remembers that at the first session of the TCM exchange meeting, she listened to Mr. Lin explain the 10 ancient acupuncture methods of TCM, and she was fascinated by it. She also mischievously asked Mr. Lin about whether the legendary 13 needles of the Ghost Gate was true. I remember that Mr. Lin at that time quoted classics and combined traditional Chinese medicine with ancient Zuyushi to tell a fact that may have been ignored by the public. That is the traditional Chinese medicine left by the ancestors, which may really be the closest professional craft to the ghosts and gods. In short, it is mysterious and mysterious, which makes her admire it in her heart. Therefore, seeing Mr. Lin now, Li Jiajia is very excited. However, the next words made Li Jiajia stunned. Oh, that's not. Lin Wanfan smiled faintly, then looked at Bai Ye, and her expression immediately became respectful. I'm here to find Master Bai to solve my doubts, said. Lin Wanfan walked towards Bai Ye, her expression and movements were like a pilgrimage, and she came to Bai Ye. I was a little nervous and excited. The voice fell, and seeing this scene, Li Jiajia was stunned. Master White? Mr. Lin actually called this boss a master. Teacher Lin, whom she admired, was like a primary school student facing a university doctor in front of Bai Ye, and her whole person was like being struck by lightning. It's numb. Lin, Teacher Lin, what are you going to do? Li Jiajia couldn't help but ask softly. Shhh. Huh, Xiao, I'm not dazzled. It's impossible for our teacher Lin to take the wrong medicine, right? Li Jiajia swallowed, only feeling a buzzing in her head. Jiajia, you're in the wrong place. Hearing her best friend say this, Lu Xiao sighed slightly. Don't underestimate this Bai's Chinese Medicine Museum. Even Master Ni, a master of Chinese medicine, is highly respected. Ah, as soon as these words came out, Li Jiajia was dumbfounded, and then immediately thought of what her father had instructed. But how is this possible? Li Jiajia stared blankly at the dignified white knight, puzzled. With such a wealth of learning resources and contacts, she is only at the beginning of the field of Chinese medicine. How did this little-known kid manage to make Master Ni admire? There are no cases of him treating patients on the internet. It's like popping out of a stone, it's incredible. With such doubts, Li Jiajia restrained her contemptuous demeanor and walked towards Bai Ye and Lin Wanfan step by step. Now that her mentality has changed, she wants to see what the charm of the White Knight is. After all, she also knows that the land of China is crouching tiger, hidden dragon, and the real master is hidden in the city. It's just that she didn't expect such a master to be such a little fresh meat like Bai Ye, so she has to verify it. Traditional Chinese medicine, infertility, crazy social death patients. Author, Cold Shower in Winter. Chapter 30. Bai Ye looked at another person in the store, and his smile was still cute. The three men seemed to know each other. The older woman was dressed in a luxurious attire, full of heroism, with fair skin, and looked to be in her early 30s. But Bai Ye could see that the actual age of this person should be more than 50. At this time, the barrage in the live broadcast room. Oh no! There's another beauty. The anchor is really a blessing. I know that person, She is the attending physician of the Obstetrics and Gynecology Hospital affiliated to Motu University, who specializes in infertility. Why did she come to the anchor? There's a good show to watch, family. The Anchor Small Medical Hall is about to welcome the two professionals to fight fakes. Isn't this Ms. Lin Wanfan, who has been on the health and wellness program of the Magic Capital, and is the idol of many retired old cotters in the Magic Capital? Lin Wanfan has also participated in many exchange forums of famous Chinese medicine experts and has taken photos with many leaders. SHHHH. Ba. The anchor should withdraw quickly. The performance just now was too much. Just amuse our netizens, don't you slip away when people are professional. Wait, didn't anyone hear teacher Lin Wanfan call the anchor master by? Netizens looked at Lin Wanfan and others, and they couldn't help but sweat for Bai Yet. Because the three of them don't look like they come to see a doctor, and they are still in a high position in the field of traditional Chinese medicine. No matter how they look at it, they look like they are here to fight fakes. Thinking that the wavelength change in that season was so ungodly, it is easy to think that it was scripted. These netizens sang their own songs. Of course, there are also those who stand on the side of the white knight, but the barrage they sent was quickly covered. Bai Ye ignored the barrage in the live broadcast room, but looked at Lin Wanfan, who came over. Said politely, "Hello, what do you have to say?" White doctor, "Hello master, I am the attending physician of the Obstetrics and Gynecology Hospital affiliated to Motu University, who specializes in infertility." Looking at the white knight with eyes like a meteor, Lin Wanfan introduced herself modestly and respectfully, and then changed her voice. Immediately asked in a nervous and urgent tone. "To tell you the truth, G wavelength was originally my patient, and I just watched your diagnosis and treatment of G wavelength. It was a big shock. I have benefited greatly from your acupuncture ideas. It is like an initiation, and your own operation is truly amazing. So I'm here this time to take the liberty of asking Master Bai a few questions. If you can solve your doubts, you must be grateful." As soon as this remark came out, it exploded in the hearts of netizens like thunder. Then the barrage exploded. Damn. I've imagined all kinds of images, but I can't think of it. I heard you right, the famous Lin Wanfan's predecessor is asking the fledgling anchor for advice. Unbelievable? So, as a colleague, teacher Lin Wanfan is not here to fight fakes. That's definitely not it. Then look at it this way, didn't Li Jiajia come to fight fakes and wash the Dragon King temple? Shame. Li Jiajia is a little karami in front of teacher Lin. How dare she? Shocking. The anchor is awesome. Anchor, I only need to make a slight move, and I know that there is no opponent. Lu Xiao could guess Lin Wanfan's intention, so he was not much surprised, but felt refreshed. It felt like the object of my affection being recognized by a superior person. And Li Jiajia was completely stunned, and her little heart couldn't help but thump. What did I just hear? I have participated in so many TCM exchange meetings with Mr. Lin, and I have also met many old TCM doctors. I have never heard Mr. Lin praise a person like this, but the object is still a young man who is nested in a small alley. The three views are about to collapse. There is wood, there is wood. On the task force's side, Professor Liang looked at Lin Wanfan in the live broadcast room of the White Knight and thought for a while. This Lin Wanfan, I still know, she is one of the outstanding disciples of teacher Ni Guanghai. Professor Liang, if you look at it this way, it is impossible for Bai Ye to be a thief. Sume laughed. Professor Liang nodded. I'm more curious about the healing of this White Knight now. At the same time, there was a hunch that if the compound egg school flower appeared, the thief would also appear. When Bai Ye heard Lin Wanfan say this, he was suddenly stunned. I didn't expect that the god-level acupuncture I performed was still seen by professionals. I have to say that the system rewards are really powerful. Since everyone has come to ask for advice, how can I miss this opportunity to harvest word of mouth sent to the door? So he smiled politely. What's the problem, please say. Okay, thank you so much. Hearing Bai Ye say this, Lin Wanfen was overjoyed. Then he immediately took out the notebook in his pocket and asked with a wistful expression. Master Bai, these are the questions. When you were doing acupuncture, you were originally doing needles on your back. Why did the sword suddenly go off the rails and pierce the foot? And how many pinpoints? After Bai Ye heard what he meant, he took out a specimen marked with human acupuncture points and meridians from under the table. Then patiently explain. This is a needle method for the absorption and retention of true qi. Let me explain it to you. You should also know the situation of the quaternary wavelength. The medicine is not enough, the needle is not enough, you must moxibustion. So I did this. Listening to Bai Ye's explanation, Lin Wanfen's eyes widened more and more, and her breathing began to rise and fall violently. I see. There can still be such an operation. The principle is similar to the 13 needles of the Ghost Gate in the ancient legend. It seems to be a random needle, but it is based on the direction of the patient's true qi to get rid of evil spirits. The evil is gone and the righteousness recovers, and the disease recovers itself. The reason is very simple, just through the window paper. But I didn't expect that when the needle was pricked, I had to judge the patient's qi at all times. But it's easier said than done. Even if it is her, it is difficult for other famous doctors to copy Bai Ye's operation. Because the patient's qi changes in the dialectic at any time, the slightest carelessness of the needle practitioner will prick the wrong one, resulting in a big mistake. It's no wonder that the teacher Ni Guanghai can't find the corresponding remnants of the ancient scrolls, and this acupuncture method needs to be changed according to the patient's condition later. Judging from G wavelength's later performance, Bai Ye performed the stitch seamlessly. Come to think of this. Lin Wanfen was suddenly in awe. She stood up and bowed respectfully to Bai Ye. Thank you, Master Bai, for teaching and solving your doubts.